Are you going to vote for me? Vote for me. I take that position you like. Vote for me. What about the ACA? What about this? What about that? What about abortion? What about the ACA? What about the abortion? What about the ACA? Vote for me. Vote for me. Vote for me. Dark money. Dark money. Vote for me. Vote for me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a bunch of stuff to get to today, and I don't know how much of that whole hearing that you guys heard yesterday, but it was, my God, it was a hearing, that's for sure. If you didn't know where the people stood on what they wanted their pet projects to be, and if you didn't know that any of these people were running for re-election, you know now. So we've got 2 more days of this bullshit too. So keep in mind, as soon as I pop up here, I'm probably going to watch another video from another creator that I generally do. But then I'm going right back into more hearings because it is going to be straight up insanity. And I didn't watch anybody. I didn't see anybody's facial expression. I didn't see any of that. I just listened to it. I threw my iPod up. I've got wireless headphones now, so I threw that up, put it up on the company Wi-Fi while I was at work and plugged it in and had the wireless headphones in and just listened to it for 8 hours of that stupidity. And my God, once again, if you didn't know what policy positions these people were taking, you know it now. But we will go over all of that and a little bit of stocks news as well and a little bit of other news on top of all of that here. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus. Generational Gap will be on a little bit later on tonight, so go and check them out. We also carry The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The R-Rated Conservative. So come on over there and check all of us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, we are going to move on into this. Let's look at what the stocks chart did, and it, for whatever reason, reset before I could get into it there. But we did drop probably about a half a point yesterday, and it stayed down almost the entire day, which, given all the bullshit that we saw from Capitol Hill, I'm not surprised. Because once again, we're looking at uncertainty right now, and those markets hate uncertainty. So the futures are mixed. We don't know where that's going to go here. We've got the chart. Let's look at what the investors have to say. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones today inches up, futures tightly mixed as Goldman Sachs scraps analysts' Q3 earnings views. From Alan R. Elliott. Stock futures improved into mixed trade early Wednesday as Nasdaq and Dow futures wrestled to hold their hard-fought narrow gains. Biotechs were in motion, with BioNTech was poised for a strong bounce. Banks continue to report as the third quarter earnings season gathered momentum, as Goldman Sachs ran up a strong lead in the Dow Jones today. Nasdaq futures stretched to an early lead, trading 0.3% above fair value. Dow Jones futures defended a fractional pre-market gain on the stock market today, while the S&P 500 futures remained narrowly in the red. China's markets ended mixed on Wednesday, and Tokyo's Nikkei 225 edged up 0.1%. Stocks in Europe traded lower, with benchmarks in London, Frankfurt, and Paris down about 0.3%. So it wasn't just the US either. It appears that the rest of the world is seeing just a little bit of a stock drop. And I know that the dictatorships over in Europe, constitutional monarchies, dictatorships, can lock down a little bit more, and those markets are going to be even more uncertain. We do have a certain level of constitutional freedom here in this country that a few governors across the nation have forgotten, but we do have other options here, so definitely some stuff to look at with that. In the U.S., oil industry consolidation chatter set Concho Resources up 9% to the top of the S&P 500. Bloomberg reported late Tuesday that ConocoPhillips was negotiating a potential takeover. Big banks were mixed as the third quarter reporting season continued to get underway. S&P 500 stocks, not futures, PNC Financial and U.S. Bancorp traded up 2% and 1.5% respectively. On earnings news, Bank of America BAC dropped 1.7% after a mixed report. Goldman Sachs umped. Dude, Alan, you need an editor, because I bet you that's supposed to say jumped to the top of the Dow after releasing its third quarter report. Chip equipment leader ASML Holdings pulled back 1.5%. After reporting above forecast third quarter revenue and earnings, management affirmed its Q4 guidance, but pointed to low double-digit growth in 2021. The IBD 50 stock ended Tuesday in a buy range above what 2IBD MarketSmith chart analysis plotted as a 401.25 buy point in a double bottom base. Specialty chemicals maker Albemarle? Never heard of that one. Dropped 3.3% to the bottom of the S&P 500 following an analyst downgrade. Leading stocks in or near buy zones in the stock market rally are Amazon, Lam Research, and Netflix. So people are coming back and picking up their subscriptions again because they realize that they can't go without their daily episode of The Ranch to listen to while they're doing other stuff. So we'll see what happened there. The Cuties fiasco is pretty well over at this point. Nobody cares about that because we've got an election coming up. So we're going to see that Netflix jump back up and people going out and chilling again. Let's see what CNBC has to say. Dow closes more than 150 points lower and snaps 4-day winning streak, from Fred Imbert and Maggie Fitzgerald. Stocks fell for the first time in 5 days on Tuesday as investors grappled with the latest news regarding a U.S. coronavirus stimulus and treatments, as well as the first batch of corporate earnings. Excuse me. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 157.71 points, or 0.6%, to 28,679.81 as Apple shares declined. The S&P 500 slid 0.6% to 3,511.93. The Nasdaq Composite dipped 0.1% to 11,863.90. The major averages fell to their lows of the day around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time after U.S. regulators paused Eli Lilly's late-stage coronavirus trial due to safety concerns. The news follows Johnson & Johnson halting its coronavirus vaccine trial after an adverse event was reported. Eli Lilly shares were down 2.9% and Johnson & Johnson slid 2.3%. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is a raging bitch, and she told fellow lawmakers in a letter that the White House's proposal for the new coronavirus aid has insufficient offers on healthcare issues. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Tuesday the legislative body would vote next week on a smaller stimulus package. And yet Nancy Pelosi's just going to reject the fucking thing again. Can we do shorter term? That's my question for you. 3 weeks of stimulus. And then go from there. 3 weeks of something to try and get a market recovery out of this. And then decide again. We're 3 weeks away from an election. Throw a little bill up there. Just see if it works. Instead of trying to do something for an entire year on money that you don't have. Because you put millions of people out of work this year. Just throw something little up there to see if we can't get this jump started and get people going back to work. Pelosi and McConnell's comments came after the Trump administration called on Congress over the weekend to pass a smaller $1.8 trillion coronavirus relief bill as negotiations. What happened to this country where $1.8 trillion is a smaller relief bill? The government doesn't make anything. The government does not make anything. Anything the government has is yours. So they want to go out and spend $1.8 trillion of your money. As negotiations on a bigger package continue to run into roadblocks. The steady accumulation of negative COVID-19 headlines and the fading chances of near-term pre-election fiscal stimulus has spurred an aggressive shift away from cyclical stocks and back into growth momentum, returning the market to where it was over the summer, said Adam Crisafulli, founder of Vital Knowledge, in a note. And the earnings are going to come off with this. We will probably be talking about this when we're not talking about the Senate confirmation hearing, but I'm willing to bet those are pretty well shot as well. Looks like some of the banks went up and some of everything else went down. So we'll look at the stocks a little bit as we go along, and we'll keep watching this as we move along through the week here. But we have got a lot of confirmation hearing news to go by here. And for those of you who are watching this over on Instagram, you're probably going to want to grab that link above you because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of video to go along with that I can't transmit out to Instagram. So if you hit onto the YouTube link, you can get into the live chat if you're watching this live. Otherwise, you can go ahead and watch this back on the replay, see all the video and everything else that goes through this. Otherwise, for the most part, you're going to be sitting here watching this and wondering why I'm just sitting still for the extent that I'm sitting still. But let's see what happened in the Barrett hearings. And we're going to start today on the news with NPR. Because you need a little bit of NPR in your life. Driving along, listening to NPR, wondering why your eyelids are getting heavy. Because they have the headline out, Barrett evades a direct policy answer in day 2 of confirmation hearings. I don't know how people listen to NPR, I really don't. Alright, but from Susan Davis. Judge Amy Coney Barrett insisted she would not be used as a pawn to decide this election during 11 hours of questioning on Wednesday, in which she largely played down her conservative views. Okay, that was just a listen article. Man, I should really check these articles before I go. All right, so we're not going to listen to that there because I'm sure that NPR is waiting with the banhammer. But it's okay because I got plenty more. Moving on then from CNN Politics, Graham sets the stage for Barrett's quick confirmation as hearings get underway. From Manu Raju. Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham has officially laid the groundwork for Judge Amy Coney Barrett to get approved by his GOP-led panel in 10 days, setting the stage for one of the quickest confirmation proceedings for a Supreme Court nominee in modern times, all before she's taken a question from a senator. Yes, but as I pointed out numerous times, if this was a Hillary Clinton nominee, now, mind you, as I pointed out numerous times, if this was a Hillary Clinton nominee, this would have been happening years ago because Ginsburg would have feebly stepped down under Hillary Clinton almost immediately as she got elected. She would have stepped down and Hillary would have appointed her successor, and then we'd be going through this 4 years ago. But point for point, if this was a Hillary nominee going into an election, Ginsburg would have died on Friday, nominee would have been announced on Monday, confirmation would have been on Tuesday, vote would have been on Friday. 7 days, guaranteed. If this was a Hillary Clinton pick and Senator Schumer was the majority leader, not the Speaker of the House. He's in the Senate. 7 days, I guarantee you, we would be sitting at Hillary Clinton's new justice. But that's not the case, and we can just sit here and speculate. But of course it's the quickest hearing because some people do still want to play by the rules in this country. Soon after senators and Barrett finished delivering their opening statements on her first day of hearings on Monday, Graham set up a key business meeting for Thursday to consider the nomination for a vote. At that Thursday meeting, which will occur after 2 days of questioning from senators, the committee will officially schedule a vote on the nomination for October 22nd. Graham and his GOP colleagues got a boost because 2 of the senators who had tested positive for the coronavirus earlier this month, Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina and Mike Lee of Utah, are expected to attend the Thursday session, along with GOP Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, who was quarantining as a safety precaution. That means that Republicans will have enough members Thursday to officially have a quorum and eventually send the nomination to the full Senate next week. Senate GOP leaders are eyeing October 29th for the chamber to approve Barrett's nomination, meaning that she would be confirmed to a lifetime appointment to the High Court barely a month after she was nominated by President Trump to fill the seat of the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well, yes, this is because I don't think anybody's going to come out and say, Amy Coney Barrett raped me. She threw a strap-on on and she held me down and had a beer in her hand because she likes to drink beer. I would love to hear Amy Coney Barrett give the same I like beer speech that Justice Kavanaugh gave. Wouldn't you love to hear that? At the moment, it appears the only thing that could stop at the nomination is if more GOP senators test positive for COVID-19 and can't attend the committee session or the floor vote. Tillis an aide said, is expected to be back in the Senate on Tuesday, but his office would not say whether he had tested negative for the virus. Lee produced a doctor's letter saying he had been cleared to return, as he did Monday, while GOP Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, who is not on the committee, but also tested positive this month, has said he will show up to vote no matter what, even if he has to dress in a moon suit. Democrats have demanded that all members get tested for COVID-19 before they appear in the committee or on the floor. But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has rejected the demand as the Kentucky Republican leads the charge to fill the seat and cement a conservative majority on the court potentially for decades to come. Which CNN views as a bad thing, but trust me, if this was going the other direction, and once again, if this was a Hillary nominee in a Chuck Schumer Senate, they would be praising the process. It's such an amazing process that they can get somebody through so quick and cement a good, decent majority on the court forever and ever. Our peaceful 1,000-year right as we go along. Democrats livid after Republicans held the open Supreme Court seat that then President Barack Obama tried to fill in 2016, arguing it was too close to an election in March of that year, accused the GOP of blatant hypocrisy and an untoward power grab, never mentioning the fact that they would have done exactly the same thing at the same time. Uh-oh. Looks like Brave locked up for just a bit here. Yeah, I gotta do something about this laptop here. That's going to be coming up here. PayPal link below you if you want to throw a little bit into the laptop fund, because that is, if you throw anything into there, that is directly what it's going to go for. Not a new laptop. I'm building a new desktop, but throw a little bit of cash in there, and that'll be used to make sure that we don't see Brave locking up anymore. A little bit of shameless plug there, but hey, when you see a little bit of a lockup there, you know that the day is coming. All right. Let's move on to here and see what else we've got from this. I've got one from the Daily Wire. 6 top moments from the second day of Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings. Just want to remind people over on Periscope that if you get onto one of the other links, including the YouTube link, you can chat in the live chat, and you can chat in there from Periscope too, but the other people, they can respond to you, but you can't see them. And it looks like we do have a little bit of responding going back out there. But from that, let's keep going here from the Daily Wire. 6 top moments from second day of Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings from Ryan Saavedra. The second day of confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett produced numerous shining moments for the 48-year-old nominee and for some of Republican members on the Senate Judiciary Committee. These moments came despite bizarre questions from Democrat members on the committee, including from Senator Mazie Hirono, who asked Barrett in front of her children if she had ever sexually assaulted somebody. I have a standalone article for that. So if they start talking about this, we're going to leave that one alone, because I think it's going to be new batteries in this mouse here, but yeah, I think it's this one. Yep, standalone one for Mazie Hirono and her lunacy. So, below are 6 of the top moments from yesterday's hearings. Number 1, Barrett slams leftists who try to bring her adopted children into the mix for making political attacks. Senator John Kennedy called extreme left-wing professor Ibram X. Kendi a butthead professor for calling Barrett a white colonist for adopting 2 black children from Haiti. Senator Kennedy, it was the risk of people saying things like that, which would be so hurtful to my family, that when I told Senator Graham this morning that my husband and I really had to weigh the cost of this, it was saying deeply offensive and hurtful things. Things that are not only hurtful to me, but are hurtful to my children, who are my children, who we love, and who we brought into our home and made part of our family, Barrett said, and accusations like that are cruel. Let's have a listen. Because we have that ability.
All right, I want to finish this housekeeping because I want to talk about the law. I want to give you a chance to respond to something. Some butthead professor at Boston University says that because you and your husband have 2 children of color, that you're a white colonist. The implication is that you're a racist, and that you use your 2 children as props. do you use your children as props?
Senator Kenney, it was the risk of people saying things like that, which would be so hurtful to my family, that when I told Senator Graham this morning that my husband and I had to really weigh the costs of this, it was saying deeply offensive and hurtful things that are not only hurtful to me, but are hurtful to my children, who are my children, who we love, and who we brought home and made part of our family. And accusations like that are cruel.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? How low can you go?
You have to ask how low they can go. After everything we've seen for the last 3 years in this country, you have to ask how low they can go. Number 2, Barrett educates Senate Amy Klobuchar on the issue of super precedents.
Through a few examples. So Brown v. Board of Education, as we know, that holds that the 14th Amendment prohibits states from segregating schools on the basis of race. So is that precedent?
Yes.
That can't be overruled.
Well, that is precedent. And as I think I said in that same article, it's super precedent. People consider it to be on that very small list of things that are so widely established and agreed upon by everyone. Calls for its overruling simply don't exist.
Okay. Well, you also separately acknowledged that in Planned Parenthood v. Casey, the Supreme Court's controlling opinion talked about the reliance interest on Roe v. Wade, which it treated in that case as super precedent. Is Roe a super precedent?
How would you define super precedent?
I might have thought someday I'd be sitting in that chair. I'm not. I'm up here, so I'm asking you.
Okay, well, people use super precedent differently.
Okay.
The way that it's used in the scholarship and the way that I was using it in the article that you're reading from was to define cases that are so well settled that no political actors and no people seriously push for their overruling. And I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category. And scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. But descriptively, it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted and doesn't call for its overruling.
Okay, so here's what's interesting to me. You said that Brown is, and I know my time is running out, is a super precedent. That's something the Supreme Court has not even said, but you have said that. So if you say that, why won't you say that about Roe v. Wade, a case that the court's controlling opinion in that Planned Parenthood v. Casey case has described as a super precedent? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, Senator, I can just give you the same answer that I just did. I'm using a term in that article that is from the scholarly literature. It's actually one that was developed by scholars who are, certainly not conservative scholars, who take a more progressive approach to the Constitution. And again, as Richard Fallon from Harvard said, Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Yeah, they kept hammering the Roe versus Wade thing home throughout the entire day. And no, I mean, she's absolutely right on that one. If people want it to be overturned, then it can't really be super precedent as much as they want it to be, codified into the law of the land. Senator Ted Cruz pushes back on Senator Sheldon Whitehouse' dark money rant by correctly noting that Democrat dark money groups outspend Republican dark money groups. We're going to hold off on that one there because I've got an entire standalone thing on what that idiot Sheldon Whitehouse did. Because, you know what, I'm going to wait with my joke on that one. Barrett explains her judicial philosophy. Barrett made the remarks in response to being asked by Mike Lee why being a constitutional originalist was important.
Tell me why textualism and originalism are important to you.
Because I think that both statutes and the Constitution are law. They derive their democratic legitimacy from the fact that they have been enacted in the case of statutes by the people's representatives, or in the case of the Constitution, through the Constitution-making process. And I, as a judge, have an obligation to respect and enforce only that law that the people themselves have embraced. As I was saying earlier, it's not the law of Amy, it's the law of the American people. And I think originalism and textualism, to me, boil down to that, to a commitment to the rule of law, to not disturbing or changing or updating or, adjusting in line with my own policy preferences, what that law requires.
And I mean, one of the big takeaways that I had from this was the fact that a lot of this wasn't, this is the fact. We were hearing a lot of the words, I feel and I think. I didn't care for that very much. Honestly, looking at this, I would have preferred if a lot of this more was textualism is important because, not I think textualism is important because. And that does point to a little bit of a point of weakness that I have with Amy Coney Barrett. I think that looking at what she's said, what she had for her opening statements, personally, I feel like she would be an asset to the court on textualism and constitutionalism. Now, with that being said, first off, we have to wait and see what she does in practice. But second off, I'm just a guy who yells into a microphone. If I was standing up on the stage, if I was a senator on the Judiciary Committee, I would probably be saying the same thing without the words I think in front of it. All right. Barrett reveals that she did not rely on any notes for her answers, which was praised by many.
Most of us have multiple notebooks and notes and books and things like that in front of us. Can you hold up what you've been referring to in answering our questions? Is there anything on it?
That letterhead that says United States Senate.
That's impressive.
Yeah, she went off of that, no notes. Lastly, Barrett notes that Supreme Court Justice John Roberts has not identified himself as a textualist originalist. Caleb Hull tweets out, ACB with the most polite dunk on Justice Roberts.
Actually bears on the severability question, so it's not indicative of how I might approach that question.
Let me go back to what I perhaps too jokingly referred to as fighting words. You're both textualists. You're both from the same general school of constitutional methodology, correct?
You mean Justice Scalia and me?
And Chief Justice Roberts.
I'm not actually sure that Chief Justice Roberts has ever identified himself as a textualist.
So to that point, in this article 3 years ago, you chastised Chief Justice Roberts for not being a textualist. You said he has not proven himself to be a textualist and has been willing to depart from ostensibly clear text.
Justice Roberts, he doesn't identify as a textualist. He's claimed to be a conservative justice and a constitutionalist, but he identifies as an activist. That was a good one. All right, thanks Daily Wire for that one there. Let's keep going. This is over on Twitter. Georgie tweets out, muzzle-loading muskets were military weapons. Durbin is an idiot. Let's see what that has to go with.
Let me take you, I'm not going to go...
Conduct, not all of which seems indicative of whether someone's likely to abuse a firearm.
So let me take you, I'm not going to go so far back in history. But I'm going to take you back in history for a moment and note that when that Second Amendment was written and you did the analysis of it, we were talking about the likelihood that a person could purchase a muzzle-loading musket. We are now talking about virtual military weapons that can kill hundreds of innocent people. It is a much different circumstance. Maybe an originalist pins all their thinking to that musket, but I've got to bring it to the 21st century. And the 21st century has people being killed on the streets of Chicago because of the proliferation of deadly firearms. But let me bring it closer to home.
Conduct.
And Georgie actually puts this out completely perfectly. Muzzle-loading muskets were military weapons at the time. The Second Amendment was there to make sure that the people had access, not necessarily that they had, but they had at least access to the same weaponry that the military had to keep the government in check. Both to make sure that people from England at the time, and France, and maybe Scandinavia, maybe China, if they were coming in from the other side, and any of those other places, stay the fuck off our lawn, And yes, so that the people could jump back up and stand up against their government if the government decided that they were going to go too far. All right, let's keep going on that. From Fox News, Barrett admits to owning a gun, says she can set aside beliefs to rule on Second Amendment fairly. From Megan Henney. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett admitted during the second day of her confirmation hearing that her family owns a gun, but maintained that it would not hamper her ability to fairly decide a case on the Second Amendment. What? What? This must have been before I started listening, because I didn't start listening until 11 o'clock Central Time. When it comes to your personal views on this topic, do you own a gun? Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham asked Barrett at the start of the hearing. We do own a gun, she said. Pressed by Graham whether she believed that she could fairly decide a case even though you own a gun, Barrett responded yes. Judges can't wake up one day and say, I have an agenda, I like guns, I hate guns, I like abortion, I hate abortion, and walk in like a royal queen and impose their will on the world. Well, that's what they've been trying to do out of the Supreme Court for the last 50 years. She said, you have to wait for cases and controversies, which is the language of the Constitution, to wind their way through the process. The Supreme Court has largely avoided taking on major cases involving the Second Amendment since 2008, when the nation's highest court ruled that people have a right to keep handguns in their homes to defend themselves. But gun control advocates worry that if Barrett wins Senate confirmation, tilting the Supreme Court 6-3 in favor of conservatives, the court's approach to the Second Amendment could see a major shift. During day one of the confirmation hearing, Senator Richard Blumenthal accused Barrett of having radical and activist views on the Second Amendment, which is completely and entirely separated from radical and activist views on the First Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment, and the Ninth Amendment, and the 10th Amendment. All of which I could argue that some people, like, I don't know, Senator Blumenthal, do have radical and activist views against. All right. So that's what that is. If your views on the Second Amendment are adopted by the Supreme Court, it would imperil common sense laws like Connecticut's all around the country, Blumenthal said. Barrett's record on the Second Amendment is thin. She has just one opinion on the issue, a dissent in 2019 in a case before the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. The case, Cantor v. Barr, involved the owner and proprietor of a Wisconsin firm called Dr. Comfort, Ricky Cantor, who was convicted on one count of mail fraud in 2004, though he served his full sentence. Cantor's status as a felon prevented him from lawfully owning a firearm under both federal law and Wisconsin law. That is correct. Cantor sued the U.S. government and the state of Wisconsin, arguing that they violated the Second Amendment. The federal court rejected his claims, and the Seventh Circuit upheld the lower court's ruling. But Barrett, in a lone 38-page dissent, argued that the Constitution did not intend to deny gun ownership to all criminals, just those who could be dangerous. And yeah, I could definitely go out and see that this would be an individualist or a case-by-case basis. You can't sit back and judge everybody for the same thing, because mail fraud is completely different from pistol whipping somebody of a different race in the middle of the street. Those are two very different crimes. But that's also something you should have thought of before mail fraud too, because with the extensive and egregious laws that we have in place right now, that's always a possibility. They do say that people every day commit 3 felonies without even knowing it. That's what they say. I don't know if it's true or not, but they say that everybody commits 3 felonies every single day. So it's definitely something to think about and something to consider as we go forward and as we choose our representatives who are going to be legislating laws that will add to that pile of the 3 felonies we commit every day. Neither Wisconsin nor the United States has introduced data sufficient to show that disarming all nonviolent felons substantially advances its interest in keeping the public safe, she wrote, nor have they otherwise demonstrated that Cantor himself shows a proclivity for violence, absent evidence that he either belongs to a dangerous category or bears individual markers of risk permanently disqualifying Cantor for possessing a gun violates the Second Amendment. Yeah, I would love to see either like a circuit court, because it does involve a federal crime. Mail fraud is a federal crime. So a circuit court coming down and having an individual ruling on whether a particular criminal could be restored his Second Amendment rights. I don't know how feasible that would be, but I would be amiable to that idea. Absolutely. On an individual here. And I've said the same thing about DACA too, by the way. Get federal judges in and let them start hearing these cases on a case-by-case basis rather than trying to make one sweeping reform one way or the other on whether to keep the DACA recipients or throw them all over the border. Get some judges installed and start hearing this on a case-by-case basis and deciding what their immigration status should be. We do too much collectivist stuff in this country. Way too much collectivist stuff. All right, let's keep going. Still got a bunch to get to here. Charlie Kirk tweets out, Senator Mazie Hirono just asked Judge Amy Coney Barrett, a devout practicing Catholic and a mother of 7, if she has ever sexually assaulted anyone. You can't make this up. Is this really where we're at? Thank you, Charlie Kirk. Still haven't been redeemed in my eyes, but thank you for putting that up there. From the Daily Wire, Democrat Senator reprises Kavanaugh hearings, asks Amy Coney Barrett if she's ever sexually assaulted anyone. From Emily Zanotti. Senator Mazie Hirono harkened back to now Justice Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation hearings Tuesday afternoon, asking Judge Amy Coney Barrett whether she'd ever committed sexual assault. Senator Hirono, who turned up to the hearing, sporting a face mask, with photos of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Wow, because that's really objective. Was one of the final senators to question Barrett on Tuesday, the second day of Barrett's Senate confirmation hearings, after delivering remarks on ensuring the fitness of nominees. Hirono questioned whether Barrett had ever been accused of sexual impropriety or entered into an agreement related to inappropriate sexual conduct. Citing a statement from Chief Justice John Roberts in 2017, to which he acknowledged that the judiciary is not immune from the problem of sexual misconduct, Hirono said it is her duty to ensure the fitness of nominees for positions that have lifetime appointments. Fox News reported late Tuesday. Please tell me there's video of this. There's not video of this. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any physical or verbal harassment or assault of a sexual nature? Hirono asked Barrett. No, Senator Hirono, Barrett replied. Hirono then asked Barrett, have you ever faced a discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct? Barrett again said no. The question raised eyebrows, particularly considering that in the midst of Kavanaugh's confirmation process, Senator Dianne Feinstein announced that she'd received a letter from an anonymous constituent detailing Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's claim that Kavanaugh had sexually assaulted her during a beach party. When the two were in high school, Ford eventually went public with her allegations in an interview with the Washington Post. Was it a beach party? Because I thought it was a house party. Or is that just another thing where the stories are changing and nobody can keep up with it anymore? Kavanaugh denied Ford's allegation, which had no independent verification, and in a special session of the Senate Judiciary Committee related his side of the story under oath and refuted several others less substantiated allegations. He was eventually confirmed to the Supreme Court by a party line vote. I like beer. I still like beer. I still drink beer. What a great day for beer drinkers. All right. That is what Senator Hirono decided that she had to do. I've got a pair here from Fox News. Dems used question time in Barrett hearing to suggest dark money scheme behind the court's 5-4 decision, from Ron Blitzer. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse opted not to question Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett during her confirmation hearing on Tuesday, instead treating the Senate Judiciary Committee to nearly half-hour presentation on how big money donors have influenced both the Republican Party and the Supreme Court. White House tied issues like abortion and health care to large donations to conservative judicial groups and statements from Republicans about court selections, such as a quote from President Trump that is related to the Affordable Care Act case that will go before the Supreme Court in November. In this litigation, he said, we want to terminate health care under the Obamacare. That is the president's statement, which was also repeated by Harris, by Hirono. Who else did? I mean, a bunch of people did this one. Booker repeated this. Over and over again, we had to hear those words over and over again. I did have to question whether it was Trump that was having the hearing or whether it was Barrett. Because they did spend a lot of time going after President Trump on this one. He then referred to briefs from the Republican senators arguing that courts should eliminate the ACA, as well as the claim often made by Democrats that Trump specifically chose Barrett for the Supreme Court to rule against the health care law. Why is it surprising for us to be concerned that you want this nominee to do what you want the nominees to do? White House asked its GOP colleagues. With charts, by the way. A lot of this has to do with money, White House continued, discussing large contributions and alleging that they have influenced court cases. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, until it filed the NFIB versus Sebelius case, had its biggest donation ever of $21,000. White House said, referring to the challenge to the ACA that ultimately led to a 2012 Supreme Court decision upholding the law. In the year that it went to work on the Affordable Care Act, 10 wealthy donors gave $10 million. Someone deserves a thank you. Dude, I could just stream the White House questioning again and just make an entire episode of that, stopping and commenting on that. I'm thinking about doing that for Ed Talk. I'm thinking very hard about doing that for Ed Talk because, I mean, if you look back and you watch the presentation that Senator Whitehouse put up, I want to go into Senator Whitehouse's office right now. I want to go and look in his office and see if he has got 25 bulletin boards scattered all around his office in every single direction with push pins everywhere and red string linking up the push pins. This whole thing reminded me of that Data and Society. God damn it, I should have put that or got that up for the screen. That Data and Society report that shows how independent YouTubers are radicalizing people. And this is how they're all connected. And Matt Christensen still did not wind up getting up on that particular chart. Because he'll never get his hit piece. For God's sakes, I got a hit piece before Christensen did. But, yeah, I want to go in his office and just see where all the red string is strung out. How many times he sat up in the dark with an energy drink in a big cup with vodka in it saying, this is how this is connected. Here's the connection right here. This group is connected to this group, and that got down to Amy Coney Barrett, who was connected to this group, and now she's up on the Supreme Court. Oh my god, I got it. So, Senator Ted Cruz spoke after White House and addressed his claims, pointing to dark money from liberal organizations such as Demand Justice, which spent $5 million in opposition to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's nomination and has launched a 7-figure ad buy opposing Barrett. All the great umbrage about that corporate interests are spending dark money is widely in conflict with the actual facts of the corporate interests that are spending dark money are funded by Democrats by a factor of 3 to 1 or greater, Cruz said. A fact that doesn't never seem to be acknowledged. Yeah, that whole thing with Senator Whitehouse. How much red string is strung out across his office right now? It's got to be 1,000 push pins, 25 bulletin boards, and miles of red string. All right, let's keep going here from, again, Fox News. Harris tells Barrett that Ginsburg was far more forthcoming about abortion views. From Morgan Phillips. Senator Kamala Harris hit Judge Amy Coney Barrett for citing the Ginsburg rule in refusing to reveal her views on hot-button Supreme Court cases, noting that the late justice was far more forthcoming at her hearing about essential rights of women. I'm not going to express a view on whether I agree or disagree with Justice Scalia for the same reasons that I've been giving, Barrett said, in deferring to answer deferring rather to answer questions about same-sex marriage. She added, Justice Ginsburg, with her character pithiness, used this to describe how a nominee should comport herself at a hearing. No hints, no previews, no forecasts. That has been the practice of nominees before her, but everyone calls it the Ginsburg rule because she stated it so concisely, and it's been the practice of every nominee since. Barrett held to the Ginsburg rule throughout the day while being questioned by Democrats on how she would rule in cases regarding abortion, same-sex marriage, and the Affordable Care Act. Judge Barrett, several times today you have quoted Justice Ginsburg's testimony about not making predictions on future cases, said Harris, after a lengthy opening condemning President Trump and his efforts to repeal the ACA. However, she was far more forthcoming at her confirmation hearing about the essential rights of women. In 1993, Justice Ginsburg's confirmation hearing shows that she testified that the decision whether or not to bear a child is central to a woman's life and to her well-being and dignity. It's a decision she must make for herself. When government controls that decision, she is being treated less than a fully adult human responsible for her own choices, Harris continued. Now, Justice Ginsburg did not tell the committee how she would vote in any particular case, but she did freely discuss how she would view a woman's right to choose, the California senator added. She finished. As senators fill the seat of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said the right to choose is essential to a woman's equality, I would suggest that we not pretend that we don't know how this nominee views a woman's right to choose, to make her own health care decisions. Harris also told Barrett, who repeatedly promised to rule as an impartial justice, that there's reasonable questions about your impartiality. You've already opined that the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act and that position satisfied the president's promise to nominate only judges who would tear down the Affordable Care Act. And that was, it was a recurring theme throughout the day. People asking Barrett how she would rule on certain cases, and she really can't come out and tell you how she's going to rule in some of these cases. It would be disqualifying to her, first off, and there's really no place to do that. Hear the facts of the case, not go in with prejudice. That's what a judge should be doing, and a justice. You'd hate to go and sit in front of a judge for, I don't know, knocking over a bank that you didn't actually knock over, when the judge used to live across the street from you and you accidentally shot his cat with a BB gun or something stupid like that. That's an extreme case scenario, but you wouldn't want to see anything like that in your own personal life. And you wouldn't want to see a case go before a judge who's automatically going to decide how it's going to be ruled before the case even hits the desk, before we even hear any arguments in these cases. Amy Coney Barrett, in her opening statements, pointed out the fact, and she fired back at Klobuchar and Hirono with the same line, that justices don't make laws. Senators and representatives do. It's not her job to make the law. It's her job to interpret the law and make sure that it passes the Constitution. For people to make the law, that defers out to Mazie Hirono, Amy Klobuchar, Lindsey Graham, Nancy Pelosi. Those people, those are the ones who make the law. So, that is what we have off of that. And as Elaine correctly predicted, that was pretty much a half-an-hour campaign video for Senator Kamala Harris. All right, let's talk about something else here, because I'm sick about talking about these hearings, and we've got plenty more to listen to over the next couple days here. So, from NBC, and this kind of went onto a little tweet thread that I participated in earlier, but from NBC rather, NBC News to host a town hall with Trump on Thursday. From NBC News, President Donald Trump will take part in an NBC News town hall event in Miami on Thursday, the network announced on Wednesday. The town hall, moderated by Today anchor Savannah Guthrie, will take place on the same evening and at the same time that Joe Biden is doing his town hall in Philadelphia on ABC News at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Trump and Biden were supposed to hold their second debate on Thursday night, but will instead take place on October 22nd. Trump pulled out of the Thursday debate after organizers announced it was going to be conducted virtually. During the 1-hour town hall at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Guthrie will moderate a conversation between Trump and a group of Florida voters. It will take place outdoors at the Perez Art Museum in accordance with guidelines set forth by health officials and consistent with all government regulations. NBC News said it has received a statement by Dr. Clifford Lane, clinical director at the National Institutes of Health, indicating that he and Dr. Fauci, who is apparently God, according to the Democrats, have reviewed Trump's recent medical data, including the PCR test collected and analyzed by NIH on Tuesday, and have concluded with a high degree of confidence that the president is not shedding infectious virus. And boy, did that piss a lot of people off. And you've got the boycott NBC trend going on right now. And I did have to point something out to one of the viewers of NBC. Christian says, what's even more insulting is that MSNBC recognized that the debate was supposed to be tomorrow. What they didn't say is that Trump backed out, and that's why Biden is doing a town hall, the original format of the debate. Now Trump has zero consequences again. Hashtag boycott NBC. Now, watching NBC, you realize very quickly the fact that they're not impartial. You would think, looking at this, that they're pretty much in the tank for whoever has a D next to their name, but, and I pointed this out to Christian, you're just figuring out now that a multi-billion-dollar alphabet soup broadcaster will sell you out for ratings. I'm sorry that your bubble is bursting right now, but the Orange Man is good for driving your rage clicks to MSNBC. They don't want to give up your hate news. Expect 4 more years. If you look at the situation that we're sitting and seeing with this, yes, the big networks, your MSNBC, your CNNs, and that, they're in the tank for Democrats, but think about how much rage and anger news watching they've experienced. They can go and throw a headline, taking something completely out of context from Trump, throw it up there, and 10,000 progressives will descend on that article within seconds, throwing comments up, tearing every Republican down in a hate-filled rage, in an absolute white-hot fury of how much they hate the president. They will click on the MSNBC article. They will watch the video. They will tune into the TV channel. And they will view the advertisers that are paying MSNBC and CNN. I hate to say it, but when Trump leaves office, all these alphabet soup agencies, or not agencies, but broadcast networks, are going to see a major, massive drop in ratings, whether it's this coming year or in 4 more years. They're all going to see a massive dip in ratings because they know, in spite of the fact that they will go on the air every day and say how much they hate President Trump, they are pulling bank off his presidency. Absolute fucking bank off of his presidency. All right. So I had to point that out off to him, and yeah, that's another set of rage clicks. And every time you put hashtag boycott NBC, you're driving another person to go and read an NBC article like I just did on the air. All right, Brian Klass tweets out, Romney tries to both sides. This comes up with, checks notes, unelected commentator Keith Olbermann as the Democratic counterpart to the literal president of the United States. If you can't see what a reach this is, I don't know what to tell you, because Mitt Romney put out a statement. I have stayed quiet, but with the approach of the election, but I'm troubled by our politics, as it has moved away from spirited debate to a vile, vituperative, that's a $5 word, hate-filled morass that is unbecoming of any free nation, let alone the birthplace of modern democracy, even though it's a republic. And I pulled up an article to go along with this here, so let's close a couple of these here. From Fox News, Romney rips Trump, Pelosi, Keith Olbermann says politics is now a vile, vituperative, hate-filled morass. From Kelly Ferris. Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah is stressing that the country's politics has moved away from the spirited debate to a vile, vituperative, hate-filled morass that is unbecoming of any free nation. And the 2012 GOP presidential nominee and slick-backed used car salesman warns that the rabid attacks kindle the conspiracy mongers and haters to launch dangerous action, such as the recent kidnapping plot against Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who was arrested by people who hate all forms of government, by the way. Romney, the most vocal Republican critic of President Trump in Congress, took to Twitter on Tuesday to take aim at the president. The president calls the Democratic vice presidential candidate a monster. He repeatedly labels the Speaker of the House as crazy. He calls for the Justice Department to put prior president in jail, Romney wrote. Well, a lot of his followers are calling to put the former presidential rival in jail. It's happening in my Discord server left and right, thanks Midget V. And he stressed that the president attacks Governor of Michigan on the very day the plot is discovered to kidnap her. She kind of started that one, though. I hate to say it. They should both be shutting up, but she kind of started that one. But Romney also criticized Democrats, spotlighting that they launched blistering attacks of their own. Pelosi tears up the president's State of the Union speech on national television, Romney said of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And the senator slammed some in the media, highlighting that Keith Olbermann calls the president a terrorist. Media on the left and right amplify all of it. Guilty. But Romney praised Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, saying that the Democrats' presidential nominee refuses to stoop as low as others. Romney warned that the rabid attacks kindle the conspiracy mongers and the haters, who take the small and predictable step from the intemperate world to dangerous action. The world is watching America with abject horror. More consequentially, our children are watching. Many Americans are frightened for our country, so divided, so angry, so mean, so violent. And I will give the senator what he has to say about many Americans being frightened for our country, because I would be lying if I said that I wasn't. But on the other end of that, as far as the world watching America with abject horror, we stopped giving a fuck what the world thought of us in 1776. But thank you, Senator Romney, for putting that out there. Let's keep going from Twitter. Okay, I just thought this was funny. So this is one of those kind of sound on things when you're overqualified for the job and you have bills to pay. And it says hashtag unmute because it's funny. This is what would happen to Stephen Ignoramus. This is what he would do in an economic downturn. I joked about that. And he laughed along with it. I thought that was funny. I don't know if you guys did, but I thought that was hilarious. All right, let's keep going from the Daily Wire. Bombshell email shows Joe Biden allegedly met with top executive at Ukrainian gas company Burisma. Report from Ryan Saavedra. A newly released email allegedly shows then Vice President Joe Biden, now the Democrat nominee for president, met with a top executive at Burisma, a Ukrainian gas company that his son was working for less than a year before he pressured the Ukrainian government to fire a prosecutor that was investigating the company. The email comes from a laptop computer that was dropped off at a computer repair store last April in Biden's home state of Delaware. The person who brought the laptop into the store never paid for service and never retrieved the device. Federal law enforcement officials reportedly seized the laptop in December after the store owner alerted them to it, but not before the store owner made a copy of the hard drive. The Post noted that the revelation comes after Hunter Biden has repeatedly denied speaking with his son Hunter Biden about his overseas business dealings. Fox News host Tucker Carlson released a picture last year of Joe Biden playing golf with his son and his son's business partner, Devon Archer, who also served on Burisma's board. Biden, who was labeled by Republicans as Quid Pro Joe, yelled at Fox News reporter last September over the issue. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings, Biden claimed. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He's violating every basic norm of the president. And if you don't believe me, if you believe that Trump is doing it right, then, I'll give you a push-up contest right now, man. You should be asking him why he's on the phone with a foreign leader trying to intimidate a foreign leader. You should be looking at Trump. Don't look at my son. Just look at Trump. However, Joe Biden's claims about never speaking with his son about his overseas business dealings come after his own son reportedly said in an interview that they did speak about the issue once. ABC News reported that Joe Biden has refused to answer ABC News questions about his son's foreign business dealings, but he vehemently defended himself and his son, saying, he never talked to me, he never talked to anybody on the administration. Months after Joe Biden allegedly met the Ukraine gas executive, he pressured Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko and Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk into getting rid of Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin by threatening to withhold a $1 billion U.S. loan guarantee during a December 2015 trip to Kiev, the Post added. I looked at them and I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Biden bragged during a talk in 2018. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. So this is going to change a few things coming up into the election here, if it sees any of the light of day. But we're 3 weeks out. People have already voted, so I don't know what kind of bearing this is going to have, but it's definitely going to have some sort of bearing on something. All right, from Fox News. Biden considering controversial New York Governor Cuomo as AG, report from Bradford Betts. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is being mulled as an attorney general with a potential Joe Biden administration, according to a Sunday report. Aides at the National Governors Association, which Cuomo chairs, have begun looking for contingencies to replace him, prompting speculation of his role within a Biden administration, Axios reported. Or he's going to get his stupid fucking New York ass kicked to the curb because he put COVID patients in nursing homes with the elderly. Democratic donors within Cuomo's orbit have reportedly told the outlet that Cuomo is being pushed for the Attorney General job and that Biden is considering him for the role based on their decades-long friendship. An AG within a Biden administration would be under political pressure to go after former Trump administration officials and manage nationwide unrest over police violence, among other pressing issues. And keep in mind, with the violence in the streets, that under a Biden administration, the governors would be coming running on their knees. Please, Mr. Biden, please. The Orange Man is gone. Please give us National Guard. Please save our cities. We don't have to be on public record taking aid from the evil Orange Man. Please, please. Biden's campaign team has declined to comment. Cuomo's office did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment. We're just on the stupidest timeline here. AG Cuomo. Makes you shudder a little bit, doesn't it? All right. From the New York Post. Ex-White House physician Ronnie Jackson's convinced Biden is not fit for office, from Ebony Bowden. Former White House physician Ronnie Jackson told reporters on Tuesday that he was convinced Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, 77, does not have the cognitive ability to be the commander-in-chief. Well, he's kind of just a figurehead anyway, to make sure that Queen Kamala becomes the president. I'm pretty familiar with what it takes both physically and cognitively to do that job and what the demands of the job are, Jackson, 53, who is currently running for Congress as a Republican, said on a call organized by the Trump campaign. As a citizen, not as a candidate running for Congress, but as a citizen of this country, I've watched Joe Biden on the campaign trail, and I am concerned and convinced that he does not have the mental capacity or the cognitive ability to serve as our commander-in-chief and our head of state, he went on. Jackson served in the White House Medical Unit under W and was appointed physician to the president under Obama and President Trump before he was nominated to serve as Secretary of Veteran Affairs in March of 2018. I mean, Biden is a post at this point. Biden is a fence post at this point, and I can't deny that. But taking this from somebody who's actively running for Congress in the GOP, yeah, no, dude's biased. Rather than take the words of Jackson, just believe your own lying eyes, because, man, the thing. All right, we've got a couple more here, and then we will do a thing that I'm thankful for and head on out of here. Kyle Rittenhouse will not face gun charges in Illinois, from Hank Berrien. Kyle Rittenhouse, who faces a gun charge in Wisconsin stemming from his shooting of 2 men and wounding a third in Kenosha in August, will not face gun charges in his native Illinois, prosecutors announced on Tuesday. The Smith & Wesson .223 caliber rifle that Rittenhouse, who lives in Antioch, Illinois, utilized in Kenosha on August 25th, was purchased, stored, and used in Wisconsin, according to the Antioch police. Lake County State's Attorney Mike Nierheim issued a news release stating that there was no evidence that Rittenhouse physically possessed the weapon in Illinois. An attorney working with Rittenhouse's legal team has said the gun belonged to an unidentified friend of the teenager, the Chicago Tribune reported. Adding, videos show that Rittenhouse was among numerous wow. We're over the hour mark, you can tell. Videos show that Rittenhouse was among numerous civilians armed with rifles who interjected themselves into the protests and property destruction and looting that followed Blake's shooting. Rittenhouse has been charged with murder by Kenosha County prosecutors, as attorneys have argued that sending him into an adult jail in Kenosha County would put him in danger. Not to mention the fact that was clear self-defense. He remains held in a juvenile detention center in Lake County without bond due to pending criminal charges in Kenosha. Rittenhouse is due in Lake County Court on October 30th for an extradition hearing, the Chicago Sun-Times reported. In early September, Rittenhouse in county jail sent a message to his supporters stating, "I just want to thank every single one of you from the bottom of my heart for the underlying support. It's just amazing. I want to thank all of you for the mail I've been receiving. It's been really helpful. I just want to let you all know that I'm going to be out of here soon. Just stay strong, and I hope to see you guys again soon." So I do owe Latina Darling over on Instagram an apology, because, the way that she put this, I think she believes that this is going to be justice all the way around, that he's not going to face any charges, which is not the case. He is still sitting and waiting on the pending extradition and murder trial in Wisconsin. And Lake County is refusing to have the hearing for the extradition. Politically, and if the Kenosha County prosecutor, who is an asshole by the way, doesn't get his way very soon, he is going to bring this before the 7th Circuit, because this is an interstate commerce case. Definitely is. This does fall under the purview of what the federal government is supposed to do and rule on. But, once again, we'll get the defense up there, and we will probably see at least an acquittal down, if not a plea bar. I would actually take this to trial if it was me, because there's enough evidence to say that Rittenhouse was retreating. There was the gun in the shot. He had a skateboard coming down on his head. There was enough evidence to sit there and show, in my eyes, and I'm not a juror, this is self-defense. So, but the gun charges in Illinois are going away because he never possessed the weapon in that state. All right. Last one before we do something that I'm thankful for and head on out of here, from Science World. Researchers at Large Hadron Collider are confident to make contact with parallel universe in days. If successful, a very new universe is going to be exposed, modifying completely not only the physics books, but the philosophy books too. It is even probable that gravity from our own universe may transfer into the parallel universe, researchers at the LHC say. The experiment is assured to accentuate alarmist critics of the LHC, many of whom initially warned that the high-energy particle collider would start at the top of our universe, with the making a part of its own. But now, Geneva stays intact and securely outside the event horizon. No doubt the Large Hadron Collider has been outstandingly successful. First, researchers proved the existence of the mysterious Higgs boson God particle, a key building block to the cosmos, and it's seemingly well on the thanks to revealing dark matter, a previously untraceable theoretical prospect that's now believed to form up the foremost of matter within the universe. But next week's experimentation is reflected to be a game changer. Mir Feisal, one in every of the three strong group of wow. This must be just a translated article because the grammar on this just sucks. I can't make a word of this out. But they're going to use the Large Hadron Collider right now and try to open up a parallel universe, is the gist of it. Horrible grammar, probably from a horrible Google Translate, but we could see either a small black hole or a parallel universe in 2020. This is how it all ends, folks. All right, and that's going to be it for the news today. And the last thing that we do on Wednesdays is something that I am thankful for. And, you know, we're coming up into the Thanksgiving season right now, and there's a bunch to be thankful for. There absolutely is. You know, I could be thankful for my family. I've beaten that one to death on this show. I could be thankful for the fact that I've got the roof over my head, where at some point I didn't think that was going to be possible. I could be thankful for the economy that's allowed me to have the job that I had. I could be thankful for you guys because I've done a lot of that throughout all this too. We are so blessed right now, in spite of the fact that so much of the mainstream news is trying to tell you that the world is over, the sky is falling, that every day you step outside you could die from COVID-19. But I am thankful that people like myself, like the generational gap, like the R-rated conservative, thankful for people like that can look outside of all the sky is falling rhetoric and look at the best in life. I mean, I've seen absolute acts of humanity in my own personal life. A cousin who would never let me fall, even when I was at my lowest. John from the generational gap being invited into Robert's home temporarily when he lost his home on no point of his own. A large amount of donations coming from the viewers of Matt Christensen's show, who has a much bigger show than the rest of us, to make sure that John had the roof over his head. Humanity is something to be thankful for, and the sky may be falling if you watch NBC, or CNN, or Fox, or the Daily Wire, or The Blaze. If you watch any of those networks, you would believe that the world is ending and we're not going to make it to the end of the year. Even looking at the Large Hadron Collider right now, and the fact that they're trying to open up a parallel universe, and that could end the world at a second. You could sit here and think that the world is ending, but thankfully, we have humanity. We can help each other. We can move each other on forward. And in spite of the fact that other certain creators who wear certain types of hats think that we are in the midst of a large civil war, we really are still human. And we really still are there for each other. And that's what I'm thankful for. All right, we are going to head on out of here. We will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, because there's much, much more hearing for us to sit back and listen to. And I'm sure that we'll have a bunch of other hot take moments to go with it. So we will see you here tomorrow with more of the hot takes. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.